Taylor Lorenz talking with Matt Bernstein about the rise and fall of Rainbow Capitalism. And, yes, of course, a preamble. So, I've engaged before with Taylor Lorenz's content. I think she is a very good, I believe, it's an investigative journalist, if I recall correctly. Is that right? She's an investigative journalist? I could be wrong about that. I'm very, very good. Good? Very bad at remembering stuff like that. And yes, she is one. Okay, cool. So investigative journalist. I know Ethan Klein hates her because Ethan Klein hates anyone who just is, well, anti-Zionist. So, that's cool. Former WAPO. Ah, gotcha. And I believe she's been putting out a bunch of like lefty content, like semi-regularly lefty content kind of a deal, high quality, like talks about like just various topics. Right? She'll do like the whole like I don't know, circuit, I suppose, for lack of a better term. And Matt Bernstein. The only places that I know Matt Bernstein from is Twitter, and that's like the only place that I know Matt Bernstein from is just mostly Twitter. More focus on tech, but general issues too. Gotcha. But yeah, I just know Matt Bernstein is someone from Twitter. That's what I know specifically about Matt Bernstein. I don't know anything else. I think he's like a TikToker or something. I know he's gay. That's the other thing I know about Matt Bernstein. So I'm really good at knowing qualities of people. Yes, Matt is queer and Jewish. I guess I'm just hitting it all out of the park right now, I suppose. With, like, I don't know, identifiers? Sure, whatever. So they decide to talk about rainbow capitalism. So I've talked about rainbow capitalism before, more so in the sort of idea of it's not perfect, but in terms of what was before, it is preferable than basically no fucking support whatsoever, right? And, like, we now live in the second Trump term era, where all of that is seemingly being burnt away. I mean, like, for whatever reason, most companies seem to seemingly prefer to do, I don't know, eugenics ads for some reason. Like, the same shit you'd probably see from, like, the type of people go like, nah, see, if you measure the skull formation of this here black man, you can see that his IQ is significantly lower than that of yours, or some shit, right? Like, and that's, we're doing like fucking unironic like eugenics posting or some shit. It's very stupid. I don't know how else to fucking say it besides, yeah, it's really really fucking dumb. The kind of like, I don't know, era that we find ourselves in. But what do we have here? We're talking about the rise and fall of rainbow capitalism, which I do agree that rainbow capitalism, I suppose at this point, has fallen because, I don't know, a lot of like companies and corporations think it is sort of more conducive. We'll go with conducive to be like weirdo, stupid, annoying, anti-woke people instead of being like, I don't know, just like normal fucking human beings. But what do we got here?
Reliably make like a third of my annual income from Pride partnerships. And that year there were $0. For years.
Pride partnerships. Oh, is like, did Matt do like basically a bunch of the fucking what's the fucking term? Like a bunch of like organizations for like pride events and stuff like that. And I guess like deplatforming. I'm trying to think of what the correct term here is. I'll go with like deplatforming of those particular things because of Trump winning, because I don't know, the normalization of like anti-woke fucking nonsense, and that's probably why. That's probably seeing like a significant decrease in income because corporations now believe, because again, corporations don't believe in like queer rights or whatever. They don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Okay, for them, it's basically all about just making as much money as possible. That's not ridiculous or hyperbolic to say. That's pretty obvious, right? That's like the most obvious of obvious calls on the planet, right? For them, it's all about, well, just making as much money as possible. If that means basically like throwing a bunch of people under the bus for the express purposes of being able to make money from like I don't know, stupid dumb fucking bigots, then who cares? Like dumb fuck corporations and companies are totally don't have any fucking problems with doing any of that stuff. So I think broadly speaking, that's probably what's going on there, specifically with Matt. If I were to take a guess.
Pride Month meant rainbows on everything, in storefronts, on sneakers, burger wrappers, and an endless array of t-shirts.
Oh yeah, it's the fucking meme with like all the fucking dumbass like pride shit on like literally everything kind of a thing deal, right? Like the meme where it's just like, oh man, here's this particular corporation celebrating pride, and it's like not on like any of the Middle Eastern accounts or whatever. It's so goofy. Whoa, guys, it's almost as if the corporations only care about profit above anything else. Who would have thought?
But this June, after a decade of cashing in on queer identity, corporations are pulling back. From the aisles of Target to the Instagram feeds of big brands, the rainbow logos are gone, the pride campaigns are non-existent, and the merch shelves are empty. Matt Bernstein is a podcaster, cultural critic, and content creator who covers LGBTQ issues. Today, we're going to talk about the rise and fall of rainbow capitalism, the history of the commodification of queer identity, what it says about our culture,
More
our
like
economy, and why
crapitalism,
this year
right,
everything
fellas?
has gone so beige. Matt, welcome to Power User.
Thank you for having me back, Taylor. Last time we were here, we had the pleasure of talking about heterosexual men, and I'm so thrilled that today we are not doing that.
I want to kind of like start by talking a little bit
Men!
about the history of the gay rights movement and like when brands first started to play a role. I feel like throughout the 1960s and then certainly even into the 70s, there wasn't commodification of like gay rights yet because there was just so much activism happening on the ground. Like it was still this like underground fringe thing. Like the first Pride March was in 1970. The original Pride flag wasn't popular until the late 1970s. And I guess you could consider that Pride March.
You kind of could, and it's so representative of sort of the limitations of that at the time because the rainbow flag was originally made by Gilbert Baker. People think that it was just like kind of this gay rights symbol that's always existed, but it wasn't. I mean, before the rainbow flag, really, we had any number of things, but mostly the inverted pink triangle that was used as a badge of criminalization for queer prisoners during the Holocaust. So the rainbow flag comes about in the 70s, and what's interesting about it is it originally had more colors. I love talking about this. I actually always use the original 8-color flag whenever I use...
Wait, question. Isn't like this, could this like potentially play into the current fucking pride flag, right? Like, the purpose of the new sort of pride flag is basically just purely for commodification. The dude who basically made it said that it was all about fucking like, yeah, I just want to have a fucking 501c3 so then I can just make money off of the fact that people keep using the fucking pride flag that I made or some shit, right? Like, it is all about commodification in particular, right?
Use rainbow iconography on Instagram in my posts because it initially had, in addition to the 6 colors we traditionally see now, pink and teal, and the pink was too expensive to mass produce, so it was dropped. And then the teal, my understanding is that it was dropped as well, so that it would have an even number of stripes so they could split it in half when they were marching it down the parade. It's just interesting that from the beginning, like the idea of mass production of these symbols was like always in mind and at first very difficult.
I think that's so interesting. And like you said, it just shows also how like commercialization or at least production or like the economy is already shaping the symbols of LGBTQ life. I mean, the inverted pink triangle, like you said, I feel like that ended up becoming more of a symbol in the 80s with ACT UP and the AIDS crisis. And it seemed like the 80s, there was also a lot more awareness of LGBTQ issues, mostly because of the HIV AIDS crisis. But you didn't see brands starting
Thanks,
to
Reagan.
really get involved yet. I feel like it was more this struggle and it was still heavily stigmatized in that era. Like just being gay in the 80s was still seen as fringe. And like the advertisers in outlets like The Advocate were more like fringe, local, like gay specific businesses. But one thing we did see emerge in the 80s was a lot of...
Isn't this basically also the exact same thing with like Stonewall and stuff like that? A lot more like fringe, sort of like local scene kind of a deal. You know, you could also extend it to that basically, you know?
art, like queer art. Keith Haring, obviously, is a famous artist. There's a bunch of like sort of iconic queer artists in music and art and culture that sort of started to become more well-known, where like you could see the cultural influence of sometimes closeted or like tacitly out like gay men.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So Keith Haring is also such an interesting example of all of this because Keith Haring was a gay HIV positive artist who ended up dying from AIDS before there was any treatment from it. And it's interesting because a lot of his work, the majority of his body of work that you'll find in art museums, it's explicitly political. It's about political corruption. It's about homophobia. It's about serophobia, which is the fear of HIV AIDS and people living with it, and about discrimination against people living with AIDS as an artist living with AIDS. And Keith Haring was also very conscious of how he could break into the mainstream, which was with less, I would say, surface level political stuff. So which is why when most people know Keith Haring, they know his sort of rainbow dancing figures, but most people do not know who Keith Haring was or that a lot of his work was political. Because
wait, was that like, is that a fucking Lego with that shit?
Haring, they know his...
Really? Huh. Man, guys, we love fucking commodification. Listen, capitalist fucking realism. Listen, every single aspect of life has to be fucking commodified in some way, right? You know, damn, Daho is fucking mentioning Mark Fisher yet again. I can't believe that Daho would yet again mention Mark Fisher. I can't believe he would do such a thing.
sort of rainbow dancing figures, but most people do not know who Keith Haring was or that a lot of his work was political, because I think it was kind of limited in what he could push into the mainstream. And then the other thing about the 80s and why I don't think there was really like this rush of rainbow capitalist merchandise that we would later see is that like there just wasn't a market for it. The HIV/AIDS crisis was a time of enormous homophobia, which, you know, there hadn't really like in the US been a time free of homophobia before that. Like the 70s, the gay liberation movement started, but it wasn't like some haven post Stonewall. But, you know, HIV/AIDS made it worse and Reagan made it worse. And so as we will see, the availability of this kind of stuff and corporations willingness to cash in on it really depends on the market, and that will ebb and flow to right now. But let me not get ahead of your outline.
The first example that I could find of actual kind of like what I think would be considered like modern pride merch were these freedom rings, which became really popular in 1982 because a bunch of MTV music video hosts were wearing them. Have you ever seen these before?
No, wait, I want to see.
So these freedom rings were created. They were 6 aluminum ring sets, and they were created for San Francisco's Pride Parade. They were originally created in 1989, but then they sort of became popular and they became this status symbol. And I want you to open up this New York Times style article from the time, from 1992, about these rings, because I found it to be hilarious. It sort of explains what they are. So it says, a set of 6 anodized aluminum rings in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, again, colors of the rainbow, introduced as a fundraising item. They're lightweight, fun to fiddle with. They're designed by this New York artist who hopes that he hopes that they'll be worn by straight people as a universal pro-tolerance sentiment. And then there's a big all caps what they mean. A way for gay people to flaunt their wholesomeness. The rainbow is
so
stubbornly mainstream, almost a Hallmark card emblem, a la unicorns and kittens. And then it says, it symbolizes happiness, Mr. Spada said, who designed the rings. He also added that it represents diversity. And then there's the somewhere over the rainbow connection. For generations, gay people have grown up clinging to the idea that someday, somewhere, they can fly.
This is insane. First of all, what they mean. A way for gay people to flaunt their wholesomeness. It's like, we guys already know you're being sodomites in the bedroom, but if you guys can flaunt your rainbows and unicorns, maybe we'll start seeing you as normal human beings.
Yeah, that is very fucking patronizing, right? It's like, no, stop being so fucking weirdo homo queers or whatever. We already know that you guys are an affront to fucking God, so like maybe for once in your fucking lives, your stupid fucking lives, you know, maybe you could just do some heckin' wholesome big chungus, wholesome 100 big chungus stuff instead of being like, I don't know, weirdo queers within the bed or some shit. You know, maybe you could just be normal for once in your lives. Yeah.
I love that.
It's so funny. The rings are also pretty ugly, I'm sorry to say. It's very like 90s, right? It's just like colored steel rings.
Yeah, they're just like aluminum bangles. Like there's nothing really interesting about them. They're just colors.
Yeah, and they had the original ring version, like you said, there's the bangles, and then people were wearing them on like these ball and chain necklaces. You know, you would have them around.
I'm looking at this this photo advertisement of them with these 2 presumably lesbians wearing them, and I don't know what to say other than they are representing their wholesomeness.
It's very.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're flaunting their wholesomeness.
They're flaunting their wholesomeness. I love the idea of just like being
they're being very wholesome,
not pro-acceptance.
Reddit,
like, we hope that straight people can wear this as a symbol of tolerance. Like,
well, Taylor, I was born in 1998, which is a lot later than these were introduced, and which honestly wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme. And like even when
Matt was born in 1998. What the heck, dude? Am I just old? I think I might just be old, guys. Feels bad, man.
I was growing up, the word was tolerance. Like it wasn't even till, I mean, as far as I can remember, like the way I internalized people talking about gay people, like it wasn't even really a conversation of like acceptance. It was about tolerance. Like, do you tolerate these people?
Which is bizarre because it's like they exist.
Which is something to tolerate. I mean, it's crazy. It is crazy, but that word is definitely rings in my childhood.
Well, throughout, I mean, I guess you missed most of the 90s. I was barely sentient, but this is one core memory that I do have because I do remember in elementary.
All I remember from the fucking 90s is leaving Romania, leaving the fucking shithole that is Romania. Haha.
School. Absolute vodka advertisements were very cool. Have you ever seen these from the 90s?
No, I don't think so.
I remember this because I remember going over to my friend's house who had an older sister and had her bedroom plastered with Absolute vodka ads. And so then I started collecting them too, to my mother's like horror because I was like a child.
Well, because Absolute vodka has been like a pride partner for like a very long time.
Well, so it started back then. Let me just show you some of these ads. So
okay.
I'm very curious. Is Absolute vodka still a pride partner? I'm curious. Is Absolute vodka still a pride partner? I'm very, very curious. Yes. Absolute vodka is still actively involved with the LGBT plus community and can be considered a pride partner. Since the 1980s they were doing this. And very, very fascinating that they're still... I guess even in this like a current fucking time of darkness that we find ourselves under... I guess there are some people that are still principled, I guess, for lack of a better term. I don't really fucking know. It's just we live in a fucking very buffoonish sort of like anti-woke time. I'm not really saying a lot of anything because I'm just like kind of trying to absorb and just like mostly like learn, right? See if I can like glean anything. I don't know if I'm really gonna be able to fucking add anything, to be honest, because I just want to like mostly learn. I mean, this is the listen. This is like part of the purpose of these like fucking yap sessions, to sort of like listen to particular videos on topics that I myself have not gone into, so I can like learn about something. So I mean, this is a facet of history that I've never really looked into before or learned about. Okay, although to be honest, most of the fucking history that I've looked into is fucking military history because I'm a fucking nerd. So, whatever. It's just interesting to learn about some of this this history, about like all these different artists and whatnot who have been, I don't know, shut in. I don't know if that's necessarily the correct term. Not tolerable, I guess, because of like where I mean, it's something that's like happened, broadly speaking, throughout history, right? Like Stonewall was like the main sort of I'm trying to think what the best term would be to use here. The main sort of like catalyst to sort of like start the conversation, I suppose, for a more like queer liberation, liberatory kind of a deal, sort of thing. I don't know if that's necessarily correct to say either. I mean, like, listen, a lot of shit went down during fucking Stonewall, is mostly what I'm trying to like point out here. I think the point that I'm mostly trying to say here is I just want to learn. I want to learn stuff. I'm fundamentally curious, right? Like, I think it is good to sort of open one's mind up to a facet of fucking history and a lot of stuff that may not have been engaged with, to see what can be learned, what can be looked into. Listen, I guess I've sort of like built up a perception. Okay, I'm being a little pretentious when I say this. A sort of perception about myself that I'm a bit of a fucking hater and I love to fucking shit on people. But no, like, I also enjoy just learning and looking into things, and especially if it fucking pertains quite significantly to fucking history. And so I suppose like mostly the reasons for as to why I'm not going to be really saying much of anything is probably because of, well, I don't know much about this history. I listen, okay? I'm going to out myself here. I'm outing myself. I am a cis heterosexual man. I know it's cringe. It's Jover for me. I'm a het. It's over. Caught. It's so Jover for me, because that I am a heterosexual, and that I would like to learn about these particular things, because, you know, I have also, I guess, queer people within, I was going to say my life, I guess technically speaking, within my fucking community that also watch my fucking content, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I guess it's good to fucking learn about a lot of this stuff, instead of just like, I don't know, constantly going out there and just like yelling about and sort of epically debunking and taking down a lot of like, I don't know, stupid fucking morons on the internet.
I know they're like Rainbow Bottle that comes around every year.
Right. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Absolute Vodka had this really iconic advertising campaign in the 90s where they just took the Absolute Vodka and it would say like Absolute XYZ, Absolute Appeal, Absolute Zero, it would have ice. Absolute LA was like the bottle in the shape of a pool. Absolute Aspen was like the bottle in the shape of trees. And they did a Pride campaign that was like...
I almost wanted to say that it's like probably AI, but like... I'm gonna operate on the assumption that is stuff that probably came out, you know, before the sort of like, I don't know, AI dog shit tech bubble that we kind of find ourselves in. Is it a bad thing that I kind of had that fucking reactionary tendency there to think like, is this fucking like AI or some shit that like Absolute Vodka is making? Although more than likely it's probably shit that came out before the sort of like, I don't know, AI tech bubble dog shit that we currently find ourselves under.
Considered very progressive at the time. They actually started this campaign in the 80s, and then it really became popular in the 90s.
Absolute perfection, and it's an Absolute bottle with it was like an angel's halo above the top of it.
Yeah, so it's an ad that actually doesn't read as gay or like LGBTQ.
I was gonna say this almost looks like Christian.
Exactly. So I think, but what was sort of subversive at the time is that they ran these ads in places like The Advocate and other gay publications, and so there was this like subtext to it that actually caused some backlash because people were like, "We know what you really mean," you know, and they're like, "What do you mean? This is just another one of our ads."
Like you're perfect the way you are. Get drunk
like,
with us.
The like religious,
they're fucking
or, like,
Pepe
religious
posting
notion at the time too, because there was so much of the religious right that was obviously against LGBTQ people, and it was
right. They were Pepe posting basically saying like, I don't know what you're talking about. Hoo 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 hoo. You know, fucking shit like that.
this idea of like you were blessed and you were great and now you should get drunk on absolute.
That's sexy and that's
Real.
sophisticated and that's chic. That's like way better than the stuff that would come after this. I feel like I like this.
I love it. And I think it's so creative and it's so in line with their brand, but it was also like subversive and interesting and not just like what a lot of brands ended up doing, which is just plastering rainbows all over, like which they eventually did, right? They created the rainbow bottle and they actually say about the bottle on their website, Absolute launched the first ever spirits bottle to wear the rainbow flag, which was made actually in collaboration with Gilbert Baker, who designed the flag. So it's nice.
I hope he got money from it.
Yeah. But that happened much later. But Absolute ended up like collaborating. As you mentioned, they were like liquor partners were sort of ahead of the game on partnering with LGBTQ people, I think, because gay bars served alcohol.
Gay bars,
Totally.
yeah,
And one
sense.
thing about gay people, we can drink.
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense that it was gay bars first that are like alcohol brands that started partnering with Pride, right? Like Stonewall was a bar, right? It makes sense, right? That like we could do the whole rigmarole, Mima McGee kind of a deal. Like, yeah, gay people, they sure do love to drink. Am I right, fellas, or some shit? But I think it's also just because like, we're gonna do the whole cucked history bit here. It's just like, well, I mean, it makes sense because of the fact that, well, fucking Stonewall was a bar, right? Like, I'm not wrong when I say that, right? I'm remembering history here. I think I'm remembering my history here correctly. I could be fucking entirely wrong. I'm pretty sure it was a bar. I feel like I should remember this. Holy it was a bar. I'm pretty sure it was a bar. I'm not stupid.
Another iconic brand that started to do LGBTQ advertising in the 90s was Benetton. Their first ad in 1991 was this blanket campaign. And if you pull up the image, you can describe it on screen.
So this
Blanket.
is 3 people. Is it a couple with a baby?
I think what you're asking is something that's so consistent about a lot of advertising in the 90s that was LGBTQ advertising. Is it a couple? I don't know. It's a black woman, a blonde woman, both wrapped in a blanket and cradling an Asian baby.
This is one of those things that reads now as like a sort of confounding diversity quota advertisement, but it's beautiful. Yeah, this is a lesbian couple were meant to be.
It was, I think they meant it to be that way. It was perceived that way. Like there was commotion over it, as there was with everything. But it's very like 90s, like we don't see race, we don't see color. Like this was kind of Benetton's whole thing too. It's like the colors of the world campaign. It was like a white woman, a black woman, and an Asian baby. Like, can't we all get along?
Yeah, and to be clear, like I love, obviously it goes without saying, I love diversity, but it's just like sometimes it's shoehorned in a way that's a little, I think, less elegant maybe.
Like A for effort, basically.
So, yes. I mean, look, given where we are now, I'm going to stop complaining about literally anything.
I know. A brand that was a little bit more explicit in the 90s was Subaru. Subaru is obviously so synonymous with like lesbian culture these days, but it was because of market research. Like they commissioned these.
Wait, I have a question about that. I don't know if there's any lesbians in chat. Why is Subaru associated with lesbian? Okay, I know the fucking meme about like, well, 2 lesbians just fucking met each other. They're gonna move in with one another now. Like I know of that fucking meme. Why is Subaru associated with lesbian culture? Is it something in particular? I like that one. I don't understand. Like why Subaru in particular? I'm curious. Why is Subaru? I love how the. Stop listening in on me, you fucking bastards. Why is Subaru the lesbian car? Subaru became known as the lesbian car due to a successful and earlier marketing campaign that targeted the lesbian community. It's all fucking commodification bullshit. Whoa, it's all coming down to commodification in the end. I mean, listen, I like to constantly rag on commodified products and all this fucking shit. The broader problems of hyper commodification within our fucking society, yada yada. But I mean, if it's something that can be used for, I don't know, better, or I suppose, I'm not sure exactly what the correct term would be here. For something that's not as fucking wretched and horrible, such as, I don't know, going after, like, queer people, I guess, for lack of a better term, then, worse things have fucking happened. It could be better, it could be worse. Who knows, honestly. I think this is fine. Whatever.
These studies where they realized lesbians in Northampton, Massachusetts, and Portland, Oregon served as household leaders and key decision makers. And basically that this was like an untapped commercial market that they could really feed into. So they ran these ads with taglines including, "It's not a choice, it's the way we're built," with the cars. Again, it's so subtle. Like if you were to see this now.
It's so clever.
That is very subtle.
It doesn't, there's no rainbows in any of this stuff. Like they're selling the products, but they're not, it's very like, it's clever. It's like kind of under the radar to an extent, but it still communicates the message.
I mean, this is gorgeous to me. It's not a choice. It's the way we're built, which is obviously like basically saying like we're born this way, right? And that's actually saying something. Whereas like when you
Dude, it's better than fucking goddamn commercials nowadays where it's just like, so, I'm pulling out my fucking calipers, I'm doing some skull measurements. The reason why I'm so fucking tan, for example, is because I have really good fucking genes, and it's just like, Well, you know, I will give I will say this. Yeah, this is definitely way better than the fucking current, I don't know, stupid fucking dog shit that we're currently finding right now. I'll be quite honest.
Similar to the absolute original bottle, it was saying like you're actually perfect in God's eyes, which is meaningful to a lot of queer people to hear, versus kind of the stuff where you slap the rainbow on where it doesn't actually say anything. And I think it's why it became grating to people after a while, especially queer people, because it was like, you're not telling me anything positive about myself, you're just saying, look.
Ooh, that's a really, really good point that's being raised here by Matt. 1000, I 1000% fucking agree with this shit, dude. Like, that makes so much fucking sense, because, like, again, like, it's like, man, cool, you're like putting up a rainbow into these places. I mean, that's like cool and all, but like, yeah, we know rainbow was very cool and nice and stuff like that. And I mean, it doesn't only have to be, it's not only like grating to like a lot of like, say, like queer people. I think it's also like grating to even like a lot of like the people who sort of like began backlashes against this as well. Like, I want to say like maybe more sort of like, I don't know, like weird, like waspy sort of like queer people. I guess this could be also like a problem with, because they can just be like, ugh, like I hate the fact that people aren't accepting us because of like all this like use with like the fucking rainbow flag and all this stuff. Like rainbows are like supposed to be used as like a kind of like symbol, like a general sort of a thing or deal. I don't know if like I'm really articulating like my point here all that well. Like it's just one of those things where people just, I don't know, can have like a lot of like weird tendencies and like backlashes to things that you just kind of like sit there and would think to yourself like, I like, why do you have like a problem with this? It just seems kind of strange. I don't know.
Look, buy our product, it has a rainbow on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all this advertising is happening in the 90s against the backdrop of the Clinton era Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies, which went into effect in 1985. And actually, one of the first brands to kind of protest it was IKEA. They ran this commercial showing gay men shopping for furniture.
Well, you know, we went to IKEA because we thought it was time for a serious dining room table, and
we have slightly different tastes. I mean, Steve's more into country. It frightens me, but at the same time, I have compassion.
We've been together about 3 years.
I met Steve at my sister's wedding. I was really impressed with how just well-designed the IKEA furniture was.
He's really into craftsmanship.
These chairs are really sturdy.
This table included a leaf.
A leaf means staying together, commitment.
A leaf?
Leave waiting when we really start getting along.
Oh, that's really cute.
A fucking leaf!
It's a big country, someone's got to furnish it. I think that's so cute. All of this stuff is so much more elegant than what it became in the 2010s.
It has like personality and love, and I feel like it's about like humanity. Like, and I'm sure they're actors, but like it reads as so authentic.
Yes, and they're like arguing over their differing furniture tastes, but like we meet in the middle, and his taste in country.
Who fucking listen? I think there was like a quick video about like I took a look at before of like these like stupid weirdo like conservatives who had like a problem with because I feel like this is now becoming like more synonymous with, I don't know, like men in general perhaps. Like, man, hey fellas, is it kind of gay to do things with your like significant other or your fucking partner in general? Guys, is it like gay to fucking do things with your partner to sort of like cash out things and sort of like communicate with one another? Because in the mind of the fucking conservative, for them it's all about like maintenance of hierarchy and control. Like, they don't actually give much of a shit about like, I don't know, doing things that are sort of like conducive? I'm gonna say conducive to being able to foster like positive, healthy fucking relationships with people, because in reality, like, well, conservatives fucking hate that shit. Like, they are quite literally against like healthy relationships, people existing in like healthy positions in their fucking lives, because again, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, a lot of like conservatives tend to be like just outright miserable wretches, and as I've been saying fucking before, for them, there is one fucking thing that is consistent, and that is, well, maintenance of hierarchy and control, right?
Tree furniture scares me, and it's very cute. It's like actual relationship conversations. It's very hearty.
There were also makeup brands targeting the LGBTQ community in the 90s. MAC Cosmetics featured an ad with RuPaul, I guess because of like drag makeup and because makeup was popular, but it was very theatrical. Like, it was very focused, it seemed like, on that community and not really like mainstream yet. In the 2000s is when I think we start to see more of the mainstreaming of corporations and pride kind of blending. Diesel did an ad which had been, they'd sort of had some gay stuff in their advertising for a while. I don't know if you remember, but Diesel was running really provocative ads for a while. If you click on it, you'll see like the gay.
Oh, and it's like the thing, this is a really good point. Yeah, a lot of this did fucking happen throughout the 2000s, right? Like, I mean, I was a fucking kid when this shit happened, so obviously I don't fucking remember any of this shit. Listen, all I did was watch cartoons on the fucking television, and then eventually I just started watching Discovery Channel, you know, because I'm a fucking nerd. Like, I'm playing Factorio right now, for fuck's sake. Like, yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, the kind of, like, I don't remember where I was going with this exactly. It's interesting how, like, a lot of these, like, sort of, I don't know, trends. I'm not sure if that's the correct term. I don't know what exactly term I'm looking for here. It's just, I find it really fascinating that a lot of these things sort of, like, I don't know, happened. Broadly speaking, or no, it makes sense that a lot of this stuff happened throughout the 2000s. That's what I want to fucking say. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because a lot of, like, the don't ask, don't tell sort of, like, cultural stuff, phenomenon started to die off. Same with, like, a lot of, like, Reagan's bullshit, because people started to realize that, wow, so Ronald Reagan, yeah, he fucking sucked balls, didn't he? It's like, yeah, he fucking did. God, that guy was fucking dog shit, kind of a deal, right? And a lot of people sort of just became more comfortable, like, with, like, queer people around. And again, like, I've talked about this concept before, but a lot of media very often plays a significant role. I don't know how many gay people in, like, there were in, like, popular fucking TV shows during the time. I don't know. Boy Meets Minnie, maybe you know better than I do because you're older than I am. But a lot of, like, gay people were seeing a lot more representation, and it was corporations that were the ones that were the main sort of, like, catalysts that were, like, pushing a lot of this forward. And this is a point that I've brought up before, because, like, as soon as the corporations, it's, like, not sort of, like, monetarily feasible, no, commercially feasible, that's the term I should be using here. At the point in time where it's not fucking commercially feasible to sort of, like, I don't know, be able to make money off of certain identities and sort of, like, things that are happening in, like, broader culture, you're going to see a lot of that culture sort of decrease and see a lot less prominence, right?
Sailor one.
Ooh, okay. So we are looking at a whole bunch of sailors. Are they part of the military?
So this ad was actually published in 1995, right around Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And it looks to be like a bunch of, like, Navy seamen recreating that famous photo of, like, the man holding the woman in Times Square and kissing her. I think it was D-Day.
Yeah, and it's two male sailors doing that.
Tribute to that. Yeah.
It's, okay. I mean, this is a beautiful photo. Anything where, like, queer people become tied into, like, military imagery, I'm like, oh, it's a strange combination, but it's a cool photo.
Yeah, it's a cool photo. It's definitely sort of commentary on the law. And Diesel started to be a lot more inclusive in their ad campaigns, especially into the 2000s. And in 2007, Ray-Ban launched its Never Hide campaign, which was empowering audiences to show up in style with their glasses.
This is cool. I will note that, like, almost all of these ads exclusively feature white gay men.
That's something that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it's not
The
going to
Wolfmine
be...
virus has infected us both.
I know. Well, it was so interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is just a lot of... It's fucking white people, you know, not a lot of, like, minorities, generally speaking, right? But, I mean, that's typically how it goes, right? If it's a lot of fucking, for example, corporations recognizing that, you know, there's a lot of white people who are also, like, gay, so we can, like, pander to them and try to, like, speak to their fucking issues. I feel like this is, like, a thing that just always fucking happens, you know? Just, this is like, well, you know, whoa, the expected thing fucking happened again? No, who would have thought?
Looking back, especially in the, like, 2000s and the aughts, and we talked about this a little bit on the masculinity episode, but there was so much focus on, like, men, and I mean, this was, like, the Will and Grace era. People's perception of, like, gay life was attractive, young, white, cisgender men, and that's who was primarily featured in all of the advertising, and that's who was primarily featured in the media. People knew what lesbians were. Obviously, like, Ellen was a lesbian, but they weren't really being featured in advertising, and it was more about, like, selling to this new, like, male consumer.
Yes, totally. And I don't have anything to add to that other than Will and Grace era. So triggering because in line with all of this, Deborah Messing is now extremely openly racist.
I know, but you know what? Who I think has remained unproblematic is Hillary Duff.
I was waiting till get to this.
This was a really famous ad in 2008 that came out. It was part of the Think Before You Speak campaign, which was trying to get people to stop saying gay as an insult, which unfortunately I feel like has come back. But if you were young, which I was in school in the 2000s, like, people would just throw around the word gay as an insult all the time. So this ad ended up sort of becoming iconic.
Yes,
Gay.
This is a meme within the gay community. I mean, I love this video. I watch it all the time still. It's because it's like, it really hit all the right notes at the time. I think it's just kind of so overacted.
Do you like this top? So gay. Really? Yeah, it's totally gay.
You know, you really shouldn't say that.
Say what?
Well, say that something's gay when you mean it's bad. It's insulting. What if every time something was bad, everybody said, "Oh, that's so girl wearing a skirt as a top"?
Oh, you are.
Those are cute jeans, though. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
When you say gay, do you know what you're really saying? It's so great. It's perfect. I love it. Hillary Duff and Marsha P. Johnson on the front lines.
I love it. But it also was like when I think we started to see a lot more gay representation in the media, it was just like becoming more normalized. Obviously, it was still several years out from true pride merch like Bonanza.
Oh, hey, that's the same point that I mentioned. Well, crazy, you know? I said that point as well. Listen, I'll pat myself on the back.
But Obama was elected in 2008. You saw this
Obama.
progressivism. You saw millennials having more cultural impact. And I feel like just queer life generally was receiving more attention. You also had the internet and Facebook, and you just had more like out gay people online. I mean, some of the earliest YouTube stars, Tyler Oakley and others, were very like out gay people. And so I think it just started to like enter the conversation a little bit more. Again, mostly through the lens of like cisgender white men, but it was out there a little bit more. Then we had the 2010s, and this is when things really went off the rails. You started to see a lot more conversations about LGBTQ culture. And also this is when I think brands started to like lean in. And it started with more like quote unquote edgy brands, like American Apparel. They did a GLAAD collaboration. Target in 2012 introduced its Pride merchandise. And a lot of these brands were doing it in partnership.
Wait, I have a question. Is Target considered edgy? Really? Yeah, I also remember Tyler, listen, from what I understand, didn't Tyler Oakley, like, fucking fall off or something? I don't fucking remember what the fuck happened to Tyler Oakley. The only Oakley that I know of is the fucking goddamn sunglasses. Those are the only fucking Oakleys that I know of, okay? And mostly it's, like, dumbass chuds who fucking wear that shit. Yeah, the Wicked glasses. Well, honestly, no. Wicked glasses, well, that's, well, no, those are Oakleys. I was about to say it's from Gurren Lagann. I was about to say, like, no, that's not Gurren Lagann. What the fuck am I talking about? Those aren't the Gurren Lagann glasses. Those should be the fucking Wicked glasses. It's from Gurren Lagann. Not, I don't know, whatever the fuck those things are. But yeah. Those are, like, the only Oakleys that I know of. I have, like, no fucking idea. But then again, listen, this is, I guess this is Daho being homophobic. I can't believe that Daho would be homophobic. Inconceivable, I know. That I had no fucking idea about, like, well, a bunch of, like, Tyler Oakley, to be quite honest. I mean, I just did the meme about, like, yeah, I only know about the sunglasses, kind of a deal. Yeah, classic Dahomophobia. Dahomophobia. That good one. Good one, Boy Meets Mini.
With an organization. So they wouldn't just be like, it wasn't a naked cash grab yet, but they would be like, we're releasing t-shirts to celebrate Pride Month. 15% of the sales are donated to GLAAD, which by the way is almost nothing. I think Target donated a little bit more. They donated 50% of their sales to an LGBTQ organization. But it was this idea of being out and being open and expressing yourself through merchandise and hashtags. Target launched their campaign with the hashtag Take Pride.
I remember that American Apparel t-shirt. Every gay influencer had it. It was like had the equal sign on it. And like I remember like Tyler Oakley. I remember Connor Franta like had a shirt with glisten. The other thing about it at this time was like culture was still very homophobic. And like not doing that much still felt significant, and there wasn't a whole lot of precedent for these like mass-produced like, oh, Target.
You want to know what's funny? NASCAR's logo was rainbow color in the 90s. Truly leftist. They should do it again. Dude, listen. What's like we know the fucking meme, right? Boy Meets Mini. I mean, there's a reason why those cars are going real fast and real left, right? Like, haha.
Target is like making something for us, like that's cool. And then obviously very quickly it became very saturated, and we're like, wait, none of this stuff is actually saying or doing anything.
Well, I feel like it's like Target and American.
I mean, that's the whole thing behind commodification, right? Like quite literally, very often like commodified media is sort of like used as like I don't know, sort of like a way to say like, oh, it's like safe to say these particular things or do these particular things because it's like, oh yeah, like I mean, you know, queer people exist and they they too also have money to spend on fucking shit. So, you know, yeah, we should probably like cater and advertise to them and this shit like that, right? That's like kind of the whole meme.
Apparel and some of these other early advertisers, they kind of clung to this like nascent social media movement because you had so much LGBTQ activism happening in the first half of the 2010s up into basically fighting for gay marriage, which passed in 2015. And so you had, again, a lot of these hashtags. It was so much hashtags. When I was looking at merch from this era, everything is a hashtag on it. Hashtag pride, hashtag lesbian, hashtag bisexual, like the IKEA bisexual couch. I have to look up what year that came out, but you know.
The bisexual couch, of course.
But there's a lot of like hashtag activism.
What the fuck is the bisexual couch? I don't remember. I feel like I should remember this, but a bisexual, not flag, couch. Wait, I have to. I didn't look at it, bro. What the fuck? Oh, I remember these things. Yeah. They made like a bunch of fucking like queer identifier fucking couches. It looks so goofy, but you know, I mean, it's a sort of broader thing with like commodification of fucking not media, of like identifiers, I guess, for lack of a better term, right? Like this is like, it's like very, very commonplace shit, you know? It's oh yeah, no, I agree. I like it, yeah, IKEA is very real for this. I just think they look funny, you know, because listen, this is me. I'm being homophobic again. I'm getting canceled. So it's so Jover for me. But like, you know, I just found it like like it's kind of, they look kind of funny because I just see like the fucking funny colors. That's how I think of it. It's like, oh, look at all the funny colors. It's very very good. You know, that's how I kind of think of it. It's a blanket. Oh, that's a blank. Oh, that does look like a. Oh, that is a blanket. Huh? Look at that blankie. But yeah, you know, I always just found it like kind of funny, you know, because of like it's all just like the same like commodified fucking shit constantly, you know, and I don't remember where I was going with this exactly, and a lot of like corporations were like leaning into this because they had like the sort of realization like, wait a minute, these gay people, they also have money. We can also make money from gay people. Whoa, crazy. Which is why they started to get like pandered to more and more so. And I mean, you know, we all know about the sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say it was like inevitable or something, but the eventual sort of like fucking reactionary backlash and leading to the sort of the fall, I suppose, for lack of a better term, of pride in this particular instance. I mean, I assume they're probably going to get into it, but you know, yada yada, guys. It turns out corporations very often don't want to like speak to or say much of anything because again, they just want to make a bunch of money. Who would have thought?
And it seemed very tied to activism. So again, the merchandise always had to sort of like go to an organization to feel legit. It was like, hey, buy this, and like you're fighting for gay rights and you're fighting for gay marriage too by buying our, you know, t-shirt collection or whatever. And I think 2015 was a turning point, or it sort of was like gasoline on that fire, because in 2015 you had Obergefell pass, which was this landmark Supreme Court decision that essentially legalized gay marriage across America. And that's when I think corporations, because it was like legal and sort of sanctioned and becoming so mainstream, and this was like the end of the Obama years, like almost peak progressivism in terms of like institutional political power, that corporations were just like, okay, we can do it. We can cash in now. There's money to be made. And that's when you started to see like every brand under the sun hop on board, like by 2016.
Yeah, Obergefell, it was such a cultural moment. Like that was hashtag love is love. And there's a broader conversation here around the idea that gay rights could be achieved through marriage rights, which obviously that wasn't the case. And we've seen that that's not the case. I mean, gay marriage is still legal across all 50 states for now. And we've seen that like homophobia in recent years has gotten way, 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 way worse. So there were definitely limitations to thinking that we could just like unite the country against homophobia through a very heteronormative framework of marriage. I think this was an easy moment for a lot of people who weren't queer to just be like, well, it's done. And honestly, for a minute, there were a lot of people, I think, especially like cisgender white queer people, who were like, it's done. We're all now on the side of good.
Ooh, you know what? This is the I know exactly what Matt is referencing to here. This is the exact same sort of attitude that was catalyzed during the civil rights era, right? We all know about the fucking meme with like conservatives saying like, oh, wait, what do you mean that like, you know, there's no sort of like racism going on anymore, when that's like obviously not the case. Like how many fucking like dipshit racists were sort of like catalyzed because of fucking like Gamergate and all this fucking shit, all these like stupid dipshits. Clearly, the civil rights era was not enough, and the legislation that was passed was good. It was a start, but it was not, you know, enough, obviously. Like, exact same thing is being described to here with, well, Obergefell v. Hodges. And it's not that it was a bad thing, obviously. It was obviously a good thing that it happened, right? It's a step in the fucking right direction. But, again, heteronormative, commodified sort of like stuff, and it's just like, well, okay, this is good and all, but it's not enough. You still have to fucking keep going, right? Like, and that's like kind of the point that a lot of like progressives bring up all the time. Yeah, Respect for Marriage Act 2 was also a helper, although like at this point it's pretty much mostly going to be used as a sort of like way to make sure that conservatives can't do any more fucking damage than they already have done, which I suppose is good enough for the time being. Like, take what you can get kind of a deal. But the kind of thing is, like, more specifically, like, a lot of things can only be done so much through commodification, right? If it's like, if it becomes like fiduciary, like more sort of conducive, I think is probably the correct term here, to go against a lot of like more woke shit, it's like, they're probably going to do that. I'm still like curious as to what has catalyzed the fall of it, is what I'm most curious about, like the sort of like reactionary backlash. I want to say part of it could have been because of Me Too. A lot of it is fucking Gamergate for sure, but I'm really curious to see like where exactly Taylor and Matt are going to go with this sort of fall. That's what I'm most curious about.
like we have our rights and like let's party until the end of time. And you know, we see for so many reasons that that was not the end of the fight. This stuff was always doomed, I think, to end up where it is right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. There were so many headlines back then that were just celebrating, and like you said, it felt like this finality. It was like, we made it, we did it, we legalized gay marriage. Now everyone can have a house and a home and 2 kids and you know, a double income household or whatever. And it was also interesting even back then too, just when I was looking at the Pride collections, you didn't see as much like non-binary and trans. Like it was very focused on like gay and lesbian to a lesser extent, but it was like gay men were still kind of centered in this way, even in that sort of merchandise. You started to see a little bit more intersectionality actually after Trump was elected, and we started to see the rise of the resistance, which God help us. But 2017 was like, I would say, when activism really started to get commodified, where it was like, you couldn't be too woke. I mean, this was like when the term woke became popular. There was this intense resistance to Trump, and I think shock, as you mentioned, from people that felt like, wait a minute, we just did it. We just got all the rights we could get, and now we have Trump and this like backsliding. And you start to see like companies also participate in resistance capitalism or whatever. You know, like they were all really eager to declare like a Pride collection because there was so much anti-Trump sentiment that they could capitalize on and profit off of.
Totally. It was similar, like post-Trump.
Guys, it turns out commodification is stupid and fucking I would have thought. It's crazy.
Similar to post-Obergefell, which actually those times kind of overlap because Obergefell was 2015 and then Trump was in office at the beginning of 2017. But like, it was really this moment for corporations to monetize the resistance, as it were, the pantsuit nation, the pussy hat nation, what have you. The only other thing I just want to tack on to the Obergefell sentiment and the idea that like gay marriage equality could end the fight against homophobia and transphobia somehow is just like, gay marriage is important. I think that everyone should be able to marry, obviously. But like what you were just saying about like, okay, yes, like finally gay people could have the freedom to have a husband and a house and 2 kids. And it's like, obviously that's not the reality for the majority of queer people. And it's just, again, why marriage equality without justice for trans people, without economic justice and equality, without racial justice, it's like all of these things fit together, or else what you have is such a shallow win in many ways, which is why if you don't keep going all the time.
Whoa, guys, it turns out intersectionality is really important, because if you don't have everyone involved, it's like it's the concept of stuff that I've mentioned before. A rising tide is what raises all fucking ships. But you know, unfortunately, a lot of people sort of like have the sort of, I don't know, like cucked mentality of being like, well, you know, fuck you, I've got mine, you can like eat shit and die because I've got mine, I'll be okay because I have my fucking like little treats here, so I'll be like totally fine and whatnot. You know, it's the fucking whole like, okay, we're being ageist right now. I'm being ageist right now. Based ageism, of course, as always. It's all the sort of like dumb fuck like boomer mentality that people generally speaking have of like, well, you know what, fuck you, I got mine, you know, I got my gay marriage or whatever, so I don't really give a shit about all this other stuff. Like, the only thing I cared about was my gay marriage, so I don't give a shit. We're just gonna throw everyone else under the bus because, listen, I got my main fucking rigmarole fuckamagee. And fun fact, you know, it plays into a lot of like, I don't know, like propaganda, I guess, for like lack of a better term. You want to know like who are the people who tend to be like very annoyingly homophobic online? It tends to be a lot of gay men, right? Like very, very like waspy, sort of like incredibly like pretentious, out of touch fucking like annoying ass gay men who tend to be like super fucking transphobic very often. I don't remember the name of the fucking dude. I don't know if it's like a TikTok or whatever, but there was like this one fucking guy who was, I think, who lived in like Colorado or something, and made these like videos specifically like constantly going after fucking trans people all the time and having like I don't know, weirdo conniption. Oh wait, no, I think that guy was actually trying to make a bid for I don't remember the name, but the guy was trying to make a fucking bid for Congress, and the dude made like TikToks and was like super fucking like cringy and shit like that, right? I don't know if you remember who this is, Boy Meets Minnie, but it was a dude in, I think it was Lauren Boebert's district, trying to oust Lauren Boebert, and it was just like, well, it didn't really go anywhere. Bro got his ass handed to him. Or was it bro like that dude who fucking lost? I could be wrong on this one, but that basically like that campaign just never really went anywhere because the dude was just like such an ostensible, like an obnoxious, annoying like prick that, well, no one really fucking liked. And whoa, it was just like, it turns out this guy is just like, I don't know, like a complete fucking transphobic weirdo fucking piece of shit kind of a deal. Like, oh, crazy, man, this dude is just like a fucking dumbass fucking weirdo. Who would have fucking thought, guys?
Time against all of these systems of oppression that are working together, they just will end up receding back like a shoreline, which is, of course, what happened.
Well, I think you make such good points there. And I mean, again, like I was saying, it was so interesting to go back and just see how these things that feel so central to LGBTQ rights and the fight for LGBTQ rights, really like, gender expression and identity and trans rights and stuff, like was foreign. I remember Sam Escobar, who's a really amazing beauty editor, wrote this article in 2016 that was How I Told the World I'm Neither a Man Nor a Woman, a different kind of coming out story. And it was about them coming out as non-binary. And I remember even being in media group chats where people were very confused. And people were like, wait, so like, what genitals does Sam have? This is very confusing. Like, what does this mean? Like there wasn't even like a public awareness, I think, even within, and I'm talking about like pretty like...
Dude, is this like a vagina? Like, do they have a pussy or cock and balls, bro? Like, what's going on? This is like so weird, bros.
Successful media people, right? That like were writing articles about LGBTQ issues, but like still didn't even understand the concept of what a non-binary person was. And so I think it's like you started to see like a little bit more conversations around those things and inclusivity happen through the late 2010s. Like when we were peak rainbow capitalism, like there was this idea, and I argue in other videos of mine that it's like it was completely performative, this idea of intersectionality, but it was something that you would hear about a little bit more. I mean, they were just so desperate to target anyone in the LGBTQ world. This is when Tesla had a rainbow logo, and Elon Musk himself was saying,
"Crazy,
don't
crazy." What a time! I mean, you could do this whole episode just through the evolution of like that one brand and its founder.
Yes, like the evolution of their like social media avatar over time and like what it says about their value set. And I mean, you could look at so many of these companies, like the Unilever, Pride collection, and they would rebrand their Facebook profile and their Twitter account, and Twitter had like the rainbow hashtags. And it was something too where like every advertising agency would pitch a Pride activation, right? Like every brand would be rolling out a Pride collection or targeting the market. And I do think that you started to see fatigue. People started talking about this thing called rainbow washing, which is basically like Lockheed Martin draping itself in a Pride flag and trying to like make it like, hey,
any Lockheed leftists, any Lockheed leftists?
This idea of who's accepted at Pride. Every single brand wanted to be involved all of a sudden in like every sort of Pride celebration. And I think people rightfully started to feel a little bit weird about that and be like, okay, wait, do we need Deloitte marching alongside like weapons manufacturers at our Pride event?
Yeah, I mean, there were, during sort of the latter half of the 2010s and early 2020s, there were so many insane examples of like rainbow capitalism, rainbow washing, just various versions of...
like most, I think like Vosh has made this point before, like all of the like fucking queer people in like Seattle, a lot of them do tend to like work for like Lockheed Martin and shit like that, because I mean, hey, if they're good at their job and they fucking can, I don't know, make their drone be more explodey or whatever the fuck, yeah, they're gonna get fucking paid, and they're gonna get paid well in as expensive a fucking goddamn like city to live in as like Seattle, right? Yeah, Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, yeah, all those fucking guys.
Really like egregious Pride marketing materials. One of my favorites, least favorites, what have you. Have you ever seen the post from the U.S. Marines?
I only sort of remember this.
So this was a few years ago, and it was the U.S. Marines official, they posted it on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh my God, is this the rainbow bullets? Oh my God, I forgot about this.
This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It's insane.
Rainbow bullets.
Describe this for people that haven't seen it. This was
awesome.
This was one of those things I saw all over Instagram, and I was like, this is an edit. There's no way this is real, and it was real.
Yeah, so the U.S. Marines posted a like Happy Pride Month thing with a photo attached of sort of just like a clip art Marines uniform helmet.
Like a camo hard hat.
Yeah, a camo hard hat. Sorry, I don't know what these things are called. And within like the headband, there are 6 bullets, one of each color of the rainbow. It's just crazy.
Don't forget my favorite part. They're on the band holding the bullets.
Oh, yeah,
the rainbow bullets. It says proud to serve.
And I mean, you can see a
funny,
direct link between something like this and like in the early days of the genocide on Gaza, you had photos of Israeli soldiers standing atop mounds of rubble in Gaza that they had just bombed, planting rainbow flags in the soil to be like, we are going to bring pride to Gaza. I remember that was an actual caption, I think.
Bro, what if you were gay in Gaza, bro? Bros, what if you were gay in Gaza? Like the stupid, like, fucking dumbass chudjack of, like, like, if you were gay in Gaza, like, Hamas would, like, cast exterminatus upon you and would want to murder you and your entire family. Yeah.
I think on a Noah Tishby Instagram post. And not to like stretch too far in a bunch of different directions, but it just shows the limitation, like the really extreme humanitarian limitations of slapping rainbows on things.
Right. Well, there was just this inherent hypocrisy because all of these corporations are pretty evil and bad. I mean, obviously the U.S. military is evil and bad, and U.S. imperialism is bad for LGBTQ rights generally. But you also had a lot of companies that had really exploitative policies and were exploiting people in the global south, like food brands, clothing brands. A lot of this like Pride merch was being made in authoritarian countries where people were working for slave labor, basically, and sort of fast fashion, like the way that Pride merch was capitalized on. At this point, they've given up the pretense of donating 15% of the profits to GLAAD or whatever. Like it is just like sell. Yeah, this Pride merch was made in a sweatshop, but get out there and buy it, wear it, be proud. And I think people that started to pay attention and started to kind of think more critically about things were like, wait a minute, are you actually furthering LGBTQ rights, or are you just trying to profit off us?
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to paint all of it with the same brush. I mean, some of it was more ethically made. Some people did donate the profits. Some people did work directly with, you know, queer graphic designers and queer artists, and some of them were, you know, respecting like queer hiring practices within their own companies. So like there was some good stuff. Like this is where it gets kind of complicated.
Before you say that, yes, there was some good stuff.
Yeah, I'm so far I'm agreeing very much so with what Matt, like, this is where it does get fucking kind of complicated, because there was good things that were fucking happening. The problem is like it just becomes like kind of like a whole rigmarole, fuck McGee kind of a situation where it's just like, you know, this thing was good, this thing was not as good, but this thing was good. I can understand why like a certain thing here and there is like, okay, blah blah blah, but like, you know, it becomes like, it's one of those things where it's like it's a really difficult square to circle, because there are fucking problems, but like you also have to acknowledge the fact that it's just like, well, you know, a lot of like sort of like justifications that people have in order to bring these products to a particular market are bad because of like a lot of various reasons. You have to do the whole like cucked fucking lefty bit, saying like, no, this is bad because of all blah 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 kind of a deal, yada yada yada, you know.
But I would say it was the minority. And I only say that because when you think about the rise of e-commerce during this time, and sites like Shopify, the way they started to allow like all of these sort of smaller vendors, and Amazon's proliferation during this time, where like you saw this explosion of e-commerce, and you just had so many like vultures kind of come in, like these opportunists making this merch, and like expendable merch also to wear during Pride events or to buy for Pride, or decorations. Like, yes, I don't want to discount the few brands that did do things responsibly, but I feel like 99% of them weren't, and didn't have true dedication, because we'll see what happens after 2023 as well.
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to say before you get to that, you're totally right. And again, just like with the way that all of these issues intersect, is like we're getting more and more Rainbow vodka and Rainbow, like, you know, made in China merch at Walmart and Target. And at the same time, like, wealth inequality continues to get worse. Like, transphobia continues to largely go unaddressed and get worse. And so while you're having these brands continue to celebrate and be like, we love Pride, we love Rainbow, it's like you are also still having the conditions in this country where a disproportionate amount of LGBTQ people are still at suicide risk, at risk of being homeless, at risk of doing sex work for survival. And so it's like the sort of detachment from reality that started to happen every June, I think, became more and more grating as well.
Yeah. And then we saw, I mean, I think you mentioned the transphobia. I mean, I think COVID hit as well, and like pushed everyone online to an insane degree, broke a lot of people's brains, including Elon Musk's. You really started to see this virulent transphobia from the right, also just a backlash to quote unquote wokeism. I talked about this in a recent video as well, like how sort of COVID accelerated.
Well, yeah, that, and also like I think another thing that also contributes to this is Me Too backlash, right? Like a general sort of like sentiment of like, you know what, fuck the I don't know, Chi-Com woke authoritarian kind of like schizo bullshit nonsense, right? Like a lot of that shit where basically everyone's like collective brains started to like melt out of their ears or some shit, where it's just like, oh, that's right, we've had enough of these Chi-Com terrorists talking about how we can't say particular things on platforms. That's right, we've had enough of it. We're going to push back against it. We've had enough of all these goddamn woke bullshit. No more of that. And, you know, like, stuff like that. You know, the conspiratorial fucking nonsense. And again, social media is a very, very, like, a big player in the fact that, you know, of the collective sort of, like, breaking of people's brains. Guys, I think, listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It might be a bad thing that social media is commodified.
The far-right radicalization of masses of the public. But I would say a real turning point in all of this was Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light. Do you want to explain what happened?
Dylan Mulvaney was hired to do a single sponsored Instagram reel that was not even matriculated to her TikTok page, where she had a larger following. She did a 160-second video promoting the beer to her Instagram followers. And
a bunch of schizophrenics like lost their fucking minds. Like a ton of fucking freaks just were just like, no, you can't have fucking a gay fucking do this shit, and everyone just like could like it became like a sort of like mind blast. Like everyone just had fucking enough of that stuff, and I don't know, it's honestly, like, looking back on it, it's some of the fucking stupidest fucking shit on the planet. Honestly, it was just all fucking Dylan Mulvaney, because again, it's just like, yeah, is she like, I don't know, like kind of like a silly goofy gal or something who didn't really do anything wrong? Yeah, definitely, but it's just it's one of those situations where it's just like, dog, like, We really didn't have to fucking lose our minds over some fucking like piss beer or some shit. Yeah, it's so fucking goofy, man.
It was like in a tie-in with like March Madness and like drink Bud Light and like you enter this like sweepstakes for March Madness or something. It was so incredibly benign and like silly. And as part of the partnership, Bud Light sent Dylan one singular can where they had printed her face on it in a sort of like stylized graphic way. And
I just want to say, by the way, this is not hard to do. I have, actually, you can't see it behind me, but I have a coffee cup with my face on it that they printed one time for press at an event. Like, it was not Bud Light, it was a coffee brand.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, like, the idea that like people have of like this was some custom impossible thing, they probably did this for like 500 influencers.
Yes, it was so silly.
Really? Wait, people made that fucking argument? Dog, you just used like a fucking printer for that shit. Like, hello? No, it's so difficult and exclusive. You can't fucking do stuff like that, dog. You could just do it with like a fucking printer or some shit. There's a specialty printer that fucking does that kind of stuff. It's fucking stupid, man.
Right is very good at like consolidating around these moments of cultural rage and like feeding on them and building their movement on them. And so it immediately started to become this thing that like all of the big right-wing influencers like Libs of TikTok, and like Libs of TikTok I think has talked about this probably upwards of 200 times. People like Charlie Kirk, and then on Fox News, Candace Owens, everybody was like, they did what? With who? They made Dylan Mulvaney a transgender, the face of Bud Light,
Not a
American beer,
trans!
and it spiraled out of control so quickly and so violently. Famously, you had Kid Rock filming himself gunning down cases of Bud Light in his backyard.
Yeah, there fucking is the stupid weirdo Kid Rock. Quick reminder, Kid Rock wrote a fucking song about the fucking a 14-year-old. So you know, pedocon law. It's not pedocon theory. It's actually pedocon law. Remains true to this day.
And then flipping off the camera, you had people throwing actual tantrums, like filming themselves throwing tantrums in grocery stores, like throwing Bud Light down the aisles, like spilling open cases of it. Was so crazy. And I think for queer people and specifically trans people at the time, like it was so hard to look at. It was insane, to be clear, but it was also like they're doing this to the cans of beer because they want to do it to trans people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a violent outburst, and it was a very, very successful anti-trans campaign. And the result of that, because this was broadcast, there was essentially like a Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light segment every day on Fox News for probably a year. And the result of that was every other brand canceled their pride campaigns and more broadly stopped working with queer people and queer influencers. And I know that because that was my sole source of income, was brand work up until this point. You know, I always tell people, like, before I started my podcast and before I started like Patreon and this kind of stuff is why I started Patreon, because I realized I could not depend on advertisers anymore.
Having been canceled by many advertisers myself, like I think it's like you start to realize that like none of these.
Hey conservatives! I know that you dipshits have some fucking double standards and you don't give a fuck about any of this stuff because again, for you it's all about expressions of power, maintenance of hierarchy, and fucking control. But here's an example of two people getting canceled because of a lot of work that they've done before. It's almost as if the root cause and the root basis of this is fundamentally commodification and, well, the broader sort of like capitalist form of fucking production. It's not about like, I don't know, queer people doing I don't know, goofy doopy little silly ass song and dance about like, look at me, I'm on a fucking can of Bud Light for fuck's sake. No, it's the main problem is fucking capitalism. That's what it fucking is.
Brands actually want to work with anybody that's not quote unquote brand safe. Like if you are a content creator that's challenging power, please subscribe to both of us because like we are not getting the brand money at all, at least.
Oh yeah, so subscribe to me as well, okay? Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good YouTube algo shit, okay? I all I do is insult people. I also challenge power, okay? You know, I talk about, hey, so corporations, they're kind of bad guys, right? Am I right? Am I right, fellas, you know?
You know, it's a lot harder, I think, in this climate. I mean, I remember covering that story, just writing about that and seeing what Dylan went through. And I was telling you this earlier before I got on the call, but I used to do the Facebook page for Bud Light.
Crazy.
Way back in the day. And like Bud Light has advertised with the LGBTQ community actually for a really long time. Like they were one of those brands, as we're talking about, those alcohol brands that like started to do outreach to the LGBTQ community pretty early.
Yeah, in the 90s, you can see early Bud Light, Budweiser gay ads, which just goes to show you how, again, arbitrary this rage machine is. Like people think that it's like, oh, we've suddenly gone too far because look, our beer ads have gone woke. And it's like, no, you just have 10 people who are very well established and have a big reach in conservative media telling you to be angry about it now. You didn't care about this. There's nothing natural about your outrage.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's a fantastic point there by Matt. Absolutely, because it's a lot of it's incredibly fucking inorganic rage, right? It's just like, no, we have to be mad about this because of, I don't know, a stupid Bud Light commercial. Yeah, and it's just like, dog, like, are we for real? Like, we're getting mad over fucking a stupid dumb fuck Bud Light commercial? Like, why are we getting mad over this? It's so. It was just so fucking inauthentic, and it's just like, okay, man, totally, yeah, people are getting real fucking pissed and mad about this because, I don't know, they just want to, like, the shit and fart and come everywhere for like whatever fucking reason. It's just like, dude, it's just like, ugh, God, it was really fucking like stupid and fucking boring, man.
I think one thing that's changed too is the internet and algorithmic feeds and these right-wing influencers gaining so much traction around the same time where they could really drive the news cycle. And I talked about the fact of like Libs of TikTok for a while was basically like the assignment editor for Fox News during this time. Or like anything Higher Ed Chick was covering was going to be on Tucker, was going to be on Fox. And you know, back in the day when Bud Light was advertising initially, like it was mostly in queer publications, on queer websites, like in queer spaces with many other alcohol brands, but it wasn't seen maybe by some of these more conservative people, wasn't amplified to them in this bad faith manner. And I think the media played a major role in scaring corporations as well because they kept, I mean, I remember there was this pressure to like call Bud Light and see if they're going to apologize. We want to get the apology. And there was this presupposition that they should apologize, that they had done something wrong, right? Even just the way, and I've written about this too.
Yeah, when that's like the dumbest shit on the fucking planet. It's like, what did they do wrong? They didn't do anything wrong. Like, is Dylan Mulvaney, like, I don't know, like murdering children in secret or some shit? Like, no. She just did a fucking dumbass fucking commercial. Like that's literally all that she did. It was so fucking stupid, man.
Too, but the way it was framed as a controversy when it was a hate campaign. This was an intentionally manufactured Gamergate-style hate campaign, but it was framed as if Dylan had done something wrong and she was persecuted, and it became this like referendum on her. And I think that all sort of made it really corrosive and toxic for other brands who were like, whoa, I don't want this mob to come for me. And it's like, as you said, it was this whatever 100 people on Twitter, but the mainstream media was playing such a key role in amplifying it.
Oh yeah. As a creator during this time who, like I said, like I wasn't doing a podcast yet, I wasn't doing Patreon yet, I didn't have these sort of other streams of income. I was just like an Instagram influencer a few years ago. And I tell people, like, up until that point in my like career, I could reliably make like a third of my annual income from Pride partnerships. And that year there were $0. Every brand canceled whatever campaign that they were doing. I lost opportunities that I'm sure I didn't even know that I had, but I know other people, other creators who like they had done the work. In some cases, the brands actually paid them their due for the contract, but they were like, we're just not going to post any of this. Take your money and let's just like walk away from the project, because no brand wanted to be the next Bud Light.
Well, that was the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, there was like marketing essays written of like how to not be the next Bud Light.
Exactly. And, you know, God, I mean, I think this will be a case study for a very long time, and rightfully so. You also mentioned Gamergate, which I think is a really important style of campaign that was used here for Bud Light. And I say it's Gamergate adjacent because you basically just drum up a really viral, ferocious hate campaign to make something that is not controversial appear controversial.
Yes, I 1000% agree with this, by the way. It is... This shit was incredibly Gamergate-esque in nature, right? The point... Because the point of doing stuff like this is the fucking hatred, is the ginning up of like this complete like just idiotic fucking psychotic fucking campaign against I don't know, like a minority of people who are having like just a complete like psychotic like meltdown and breakdown, having like a problem with this like particular sort of, I don't know, like I don't even know like the best way to fucking describe this, like honestly, just like a complete fucking meltdown over like something that's just you look back on. And I hope that like we get to the point in time where people like a lot of the like stupid dumb fucking conservatives like look back on like shit like Dylan Mulvaney. I am highly doubtful of this. I don't think like conservatives are capable of reflecting like I mean, you know, death of subjectivity and whatnot. They are incapable of fucking doing a reflection like this and recognizing like, you know, back then I was kind of like a psychotic fucking freak, you know? I admit it, you know, I say, I was a little bit of a fucking schizo, you know, I did a little fucking, maybe I did go a little too far with a lot of the fucking shit that I was going for and pushing for, you know, maybe they'll like reflect and apologize for those fucking actions. I highly doubt it, because we're talking about conservatives here, but, you know, a man can hope.
Controversial, like women doing video game journalism, or a transgender person drinking beer on Instagram. You make something totally benign, extremely controversial, and they had so much success doing this with Bud Light that now you see still attempts to cancel, to boycott any brand that works with anybody who isn't like Hitler's Youth. And I just saw this yesterday because I have been closely tracking this like very one-sided feud between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles, which I might be doing an episode on later this week. If you want to hear that, listen to my podcast, it'll be pretty. But Simone Biles has had a partnership with Athleta for quite some time.
Now, I've also covered this thing before. Again, like Simone Biles, she literally did nothing wrong. The only thing that she did wrong was give Riley Gaines any fucking credence at all whatsoever, and not just like keep bullying that fucking absolute fucking charlatan and freak. Because again, the only purpose that Riley Gaines really serves is to just be like a mouthpiece for conservatives in like women's sports, when in reality conservatives could give less of a fuck about women's sports. They hate women. Like, do you really expect me to believe that fucking conservatives care at all about the fairness and sanctity of fucking sports. These motherfuckers don't give a fuck about any of that shit, dude. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? These are the same motherfuckers who would have no problem whatsoever with, like, people like Michael fucking Phelps, a genetic anomaly, who competing in fucking swimming, if it meant, like, I don't know, being able to sort of, like, go after fucking trans people more vociferously. Because, again, the point was never the fucking fairness. The fairness is not, it's not the point. They don't give a fuck about fairness.
That focuses on empowering young female athletes, which is like adds to the irony here. But basically, because Simone tweeted to Riley Gaines and was like, stop bullying trans people, now Riley Gaines is calling for a boycott of Athleta, and it's getting quite a bit of traction online. So it is the free market, kind of. Sure, protest with your dollar, but it's just interesting how quick to punish.
I don't agree with this, actually. I don't think this is the free market. I'll be quite honest. I think this is just a complete ginning up of a fucking campaign. This is the conservatives using the free market in order to push a political agenda. It's inherently dishonest.
Brands, conservatives are now, you know, any brand who is even remotely kind to LGBTQ people publicly, it's definitely added to the national hostility.
And I mean, this is just textbook Gamergate, and I've talked about this so much, but that's what it is. And like Gamergate is about misogyny, and hatred of trans women is about misogyny, and so much of homophobia is about misogyny. But like the tactics that they use, as you said, it's manufacturing outrage and controversy around a person or a thing or an event or whatever, usually around a person, a queer or a feminine presenting person, and making them untouchable, making them toxic. And obviously I've dealt with this so much myself, where like any brand that I advertise with is brigaded, full stop. They're brigaded, they're attacked. People are going to make Instagram posts about it saying, how dare you advertise with Taylor Lorenz? She's XYZ, she's controversial, da da da. If you read articles, right, it says controversial Instagram influencer, you know, Dylan Mulvaney. It's like, Dylan didn't do anything controversial. Dylan just did an ad deal. It's this manufactured drama. And I think brands are so paranoid, not about even the online backlash, but it's the media, and it's the mainstream media and the way the mainstream media participates and facilitates these campaigns. Because I think what people realized during Gamergate is that if the mainstream media did not participate, they would have nowhere to go. And we've seen examples of this, right? We've seen them try to take down other people and the media not take the bait. I mean, very early, because now they take the bait all the time. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. But when you have, again, the New York
I don't think it's that they take the bait. I don't know if I agree with Taylor on this one. I don't think it's that they take the bait all the time. I think part of it is that they take the bait all the time. But I think it's more so like a consequence of just commodification within the media, right? Like, it's not that they always take the fucking bait. I think it's just like, well, conservatives, or like broadly speaking, a lot of fucking goddamn media corporations are fucking privatized, right? Like, they need to be able to make money, and what's the best way to make money is like going into these like really stupid, dumb fucking like salacious stories that, I don't know, typically cover like some, I don't know, complete fucking nonsense.
Times the Washington Post or every single outlet calling the CEO of Bud Light saying, what are you going to do about this? It's successful.
Yeah,
and I think
it legitimizes it.
It legitimizes it, and it scares them, because they know that like those outlets are the ones that like institutional investors care about, shareholders care about. Like, yeah, it legitimizes it in this really horrible way. And everyone in the mainstream media, of course, participates in it, especially men, especially these male reporters. Like, look at who writes a lot of this stuff. It is misogynistic journalists who continue to participate in these campaigns and launder these hate campaigns, especially male media reporters and for the media. But yeah, there's just a lot of anti-LGBTQ and anti-trans sentiment. And I want to jump to like where that ended up going, because I think 2023 was like this bloodbath of a year. Like you said, you lost so much income. All of these brands pulled back. 2024, I feel like it was dicey. 2025 feels like it's just become like a nuclear winter. Also, you see these accounts on Twitter, like the Elon sort of orbiters that like monitor. Like, they're just waiting to see, did GameStop change their logo? If so, like, we have this army ready to brigade. And like, I feel anxious for the companies, and I hate these companies, but even I feel anxious for them, where I'm like, God, I hope they don't step on the wrong thing, where like, you know, but it's like you want them to express solidarity, but at the same time, it's so dicey for them. And I don't have sympathy. I think that they should still express solidarity. I think they should have a backbone, but I think it also shows that like this was always about consumerism. It was always about profit. And the minute that it's a brand liability, they're not going to do the rainbow logo. They're not going to do the pride merch.
I mean, it just doesn't exist anymore, which I think this is the first year that's been really clear to people, because like June 1st hit and the logos didn't change. I mean, there used to be plenty of jokes.
No, it was not. Jack Posobiec had a role to play in it. No, that was, I was going to say Chris Rufo. No, Chris Rufo was the DEI stuff. I think it was mostly libs of TikTok. Like Jack Posobiec probably did have a part to play in it, but it was libs of TikTok for sure. No, it wasn't Chris Rufo. No. Chris Rufo was the DEI CRT stuff. I think it was just purely libs of TikTok. That fucking, well, dumbass.
On gay Twitter about companies on July 1st. And it was sort of like memes where like rainbows would be melting off the walls or something, and everything would go back to being black and white. But now the rainbows aren't even on the walls. There's no more rainbow logos to turn back to black and white. They're just staying black and white. And I'm of several minds about rainbow capitalism, now having seen what feels like a full cycle of this in my adulthood, where it didn't exist and then it did exist and now it doesn't exist again. And the place where I land is that now that I know what it's like for it to hit June and not see any sort of solidarity from any of these corporations through like merch or logos, I can't say that I'd hate to see those again. I wouldn't mind seeing a rainbow logo or two. I think we just, as a collective, as consumers, have to be aware of what it is that we're looking at when we see everything go rainbow in June, if that ever...
This is a really good point because, again, like, a lot of the reasons for as to why more than likely these fucking companies probably pulled back is because, like, a lot of people sort of, like, were too open with the fucking backlash, I think, right? Like, saying, like, oh, man, like, this isn't really saying anything. Like, who the hell cares about all this bullshit that these fucking companies are saying? It's not honest. Who gives a fuck about any of this fucking bullshit? In reality, I think it's, like, basically... kind of a situation where it's just like, and this is like the mind that I have of this in particular, saying like it was a good thing considering the sort of like ridiculously commodified, like overly commodified sort of like time that we find ourselves under. Like, I regard rainbow capitalism as not a bad thing. The lack of rainbow capitalism, I think, is a bad thing. And the reason why I think of it this way in particular is because, like, we're now seeing the broader sort of consequences of that. Like, a lot of people are just, like, going ahead with, like, complete, utter, like, nonsense. And there's more hatred, open hatred of, like, a lot of, like, queer minorities as, like, a byproduct and result of the fact that it's now, I suppose, popular, for lack of a better fucking term. Yeah, I can't believe Adaho is pro-capitalism. Damn, I sure am not willing to recognize the material conditions that I'm around, being surrounded with. I can't believe this. But, like, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, well, you know, the fact that there was a rainbow capitalism, I think, was preferable to what was there before, which was out and open hatred. But now it's becoming sort of like... not popular to do the out and open hatred. I think it's sort of becoming like more toxic to be associated with being, you know, not an asshole by people who are just out and about like fucking stupid assholes. I like, does it kind of make sense what I'm saying here? Like, it's just inherently fucking dishonest from like basically everyone all around. But the dishonesty that like corporations were having was like better than like them not expressing anything at all, kind of a deal.
Ever happens again, which is that this isn't activism. It is the job of these corporations. It is the job of Target. It is the job of Pepsi. It is whatever, to milk as much profit as possible from us, the consumers. That is their goal. The only reason that they are throwing rainbows up is because they think it's conducive to that goal. The other mind I have about this is that if we do see rainbows all over the place, we now know that that generally means that it's reflective of popular culture, which is maybe that popular culture is accepting of queer people. The other thing is, like, I think it's good for, you know, a teenager living in wherever middle of the country maybe to go into Target and see rainbow stuff. That I think is a small good. Now, I will say...
this is the exact same point that I think Vosh makes, which I 1000% fucking agree with. I, like, 1000 fucking percent agree with. Saying, like, yeah, it's, like, listen, rainbow capitalism is cucked, it's commodified, it's fucking stupid. However, it is better than that sort of, like, position not being expressed about at all, or now being actively pushed back against.
A lot of these corporations, they will actually strategically only put their rainbow merch in locations closer to cities, in blue states.
In West Hollywood.
In West Hollywood, in New York, in Miami, where it's already more accepting and where the people who need to see it most aren't living and aren't seeing it.
I think like what you said is like ultimately we live in this hyper-capitalist landscape and merch and products are this like reflection of the values of our culture. And I was thinking that when I read this article in Business of Fashion recently called The Year Pride Went Beige, they just did this sort of survey of Pride merch across a lot of places.
It's also, this is the same fucking point. Listen, I keep saying, okay, I keep bringing him up. Daho, bringing up Mark Fisher yet again. Well, shocker, I know. I like Mark Fisher. Crazy. This is the exact same fucking shit that Mark Fisher talks about within fucking capitalist realism, where literally every aspect of life is being commodified to the fucking degree where it's just like, yeah, well, you know, the express purpose of doing all of this shit is sort of to be able to make these particular, like, products or whatever that are conducive to be able to be sold for, you know, commodified fucking purposes and shit like that. You know, yada yada, capitalist realism, yada yada.
And showing kind of how colorless it had become and how like even the companies that are still engaging very limitedly, like in Pride, it's a gray sweatshirt with a very tiny little rainbow sign, or it's primarily just beige stuff with like a little touch of rainbow on the sleeve.
These almost look like products that are like mourning LGBTQ rights.
Well, that's how it feels. It feels like this like visual manifestation of the loss of rights, the loss of color, like the loss of like so much, I don't know, it feels like fascism kind of.
It's kind of on the nose, but like I recently saw the current production of Cabaret here in New York on Broadway. And part of in Cabaret, how at least this production depicts the descent into fascism in 1930s Germany is at the beginning of the show, everyone in the cast is wearing these bright colors and bright makeup, and at the end, everyone is just wearing beige suits. And this feels a lot like that.
It does, and it makes me sad. And like you said, I'm of multiple minds because it was such a ridiculous time when we did have the rainbow drenched everything. But I would love to live in a world where that was normalized. I don't love the like cheap profiting off of it, but at the same time, the complete erasure of Pride Month is bleak. Like you said, I think it also has led to a lot less opportunities for LGBTQ people. They're not getting the brand deals, they're not getting the influence. It's funny, Unilever, I heard recently, which had done so much Pride stuff. I spoke to a conservative influencer recently who said that they were invited to some panel or something they were doing with conservative, basically looking to work more with conservative influencers.
That Unilever was?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I haven't seen any of those campaigns go live, but apparently they were like having a session to like learn more or whatever. But this person that was telling me this is a very
oh boy, trying to fucking learn more about the schizophrenia that fucking exists within conservative thought nowadays. So tell me, what do you believe in? So I believe that Chi-Com terrorists have taken over the government. That basically the point of like the military-industrial complex is to make us all gay with their homo queer fucking fascism or whatever the fuck bullshit, you know?
Extreme far-right influencer. And what I have heard as well from other consumer brands is that they do feel like conservatism is dominant. They're looking at some of these people, for instance, that Elon was amplifying, Trump is amplifying, and they're saying, hey, look, like, again, we're a corporation. I mean, look at all of the brands and companies that sponsored inauguration events, including all the
Dude, look at all the fucking stupid ads with like Sydney Sweeney and shit like that, right? Like all the like weirdo fucking like fascist ass fucking like so like dude bro eugenics is like totally fucking epic and cool nowadays, right? With like I don't know, people who are like more mainstream actors, I suppose, for like lack of a better term, you know? It's fucking crazy, right?
tech companies, including Apple, like, you know, donating to Trump's inauguration fund and things like that.
All of these companies that were like clawing to work on LGBT pride campaigns 5 years ago are now the most radical person they will work with is Alex Earl.
Yeah, literally, which is depressing. And so I hate to like mourn rainbow capitalism and corporate pride, but it does feel like you said the end of an era. And I hope what we can kind of like build back in its place is something better. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but I do hope for more like normalization. And at least when we do normalize, hopefully we get to a place where like LGBTQ rights are normalized again, that it is more inclusive, like you said, than the previous version. But it feels like we're in this like dearth right now, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last.
Yeah, of course. And when you see jokes online,
I'll be quite honest, I don't think that this is going to last further than the fucking Trump era. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's not gonna last further than the fucking Trump era, because who's gonna carry the torch? I don't think this lasts beyond Trump. I'm gonna be honest. Well, as soon as like Trump is fucking gone, like what do conservatives have in terms of like, I don't know, a broader future? Like what fucking JD Vance with his fucking pudgy dough head looking ass or some shit? Yeah, okay, bro.
You, the listener, about people mourning rainbow capitalism. Like, none of us are really missing, you know, the $3 felt bird at Target that's holding a lesbian flag. I mean, maybe some of us, but like Taylor and I, and probably you, were mourning the culture that went with it, or at least parts of the culture that went with it. And what I will add to the end of this conversation is something that I actually said recently at like a live podcast show that I did, when people asked about like, what do we do now that like queer influencers, it's like harder to get paid and that kind of stuff. Because one of the truly good things about corporate pride projects that were happening for like a good just under 10 years there was that they did employ queer people, both in the companies that ran them and in the talent that they would choose. Influencers, artists, illustrators, writers, like they employed a lot of queer and trans artists for a period of time. And I am one of many people who had to drastically rethink how they made money in the wake of this political and cultural tide turning. And the only reason that I can still make content professionally, that I can still make work, that I can still do a podcast is through Patreon.
Yeah.
And I feel really fortunate because I have now a community there who helps make my work sustainable. But there are so many smaller, especially creators, who are just trying to build up their work independently without the help of the Target sponsorship, because those don't exist anymore, without the help of whatever Dove soap campaign or whatever that used to be able to pay their bills for potentially many months. And now those don't exist. And so what I will say is, if you like a queer creator's content, whether they do a podcast or YouTube videos or they're an illustrator, buy from them directly. Subscribe to their Patreons, buy their artists' merch, you know, directly from them, buy their stickers, buy their prints. Just support people directly, because Taylor and I have talked a lot about this, but like, if you want to get online and be a creator and say all the things that Peter Thiel wants to hear, who's going to give you money to make that an enterprise that sustains itself? Peter Thiel, or someone exactly like him.
And a million brands, and the entire right-wing economic ecosystem. Like, they have a right-wing version of Amazon. They have right-wing steaks. They have right-wing razors. They have an entire product DTC marketplace of right-wing brands that will advertise with those people. Right. We don't have progressive brands that are giving us money at all, ever.
No, certainly not. And at least not an ecosystem of them. And so just like what I tell people now is like, if you love a queer person, a queer leftist work, just support them directly. And I am almost certain that if you look not that hard, they are giving you a way and an opportunity to do that. Because I think for right now, that's the way forward, because Target my friend
True.
has gone beige.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can people continue to follow your work other than Patreon?
Before you subscribe to Patreon or anything, you can listen to my podcast, A Bit Fruity with Matt Bernstein, and decide if you like it. You can find me on
Fruity.
any of the social platforms, MattXIV, like Roman numeral 14. And it was such a pleasure to be here. I feel like as a queer creator, I have been like living the narrative that we talked about in this episode over the last 7 years since I started working in this space. And it's been so tumultuous and also so clarifying. So, I hope that we can also provide that clarity for some other people too.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great chatting with you. All right, that's it for this week.
Nice, epic, very cool, and very based. Wow, we learned quite a bit of stuff today. Very, very cool. Excellent. I don't think I could have really said it any better myself. Yeah, like, we have a broader understanding for us to why, like, a lot of this stuff is going on in terms of, like, I don't know, quote-unquote, the falling of rainbow fucking capitalism. It's because, like, reactionary backlashes to a lot of different things. Because, it's not just, like, the Dylan Mulvaney ad, although that's, like, a huge fucking catalyst, which I agree with. But I think it's, like, just a sort of, like, more broader overall thing. Like, you had the gamergates of the world, you had the fucking goddamn Me Too backlash, I think also is a contributing factor to this as well, because misogyny and sort of like homophobia, all these and racism, all these fucking things that intersect with one another, generally speaking, yada yada yada. Cucked lefty bit, cucked lefty bit, cucked lefty bit. Wow, whoa, who would have thought? All of these like particular things intersecting in order to make this like broader sort of like general hate campaign and movement that was catalyzed again by a bunch of like stupid dipshit right-wing podcasters who get paid by like fracking fucking billionaires who are a bunch of like religious conservative fucking freaks. And that's like the main fucking like shebang shabong that has sort of like led to this sort of like cultural moment that we have sort of like led ourselves to, right? Like I think it's also part of it, I think, with the point that I was raising, like, you can also say, like, yeah, like, part of it is because, like, a bunch of people did not work, like, symbiotically with the fucking corporations, saying, like, yeah, it's great that you're fucking doing this, and we're just, like, kind of, like, sort of instantaneously, like, shitting on the whatever the fuck thing. Which I like, listen, you should always fucking shit on fucking corporations, but, like, if it becomes like economically non-conducive to sort of like say this particular thing is good or whatever, blah 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 blah, because of I don't know, like because you think it's like totally cucked or like lefty kind of a thing, it's gonna cause like a fucking backlash in like people who are dishonest actors saying like, now they're already like providing all of this stuff, but they're already like being totally, you're like being so ingrateful and saying like that you're shitting on them and all this stuff, even though they're sort of like accommodating you or whatever the fuck kind of bullshit, right? Like it's dishonest inherently when conservatives say stuff like that, but it's a factor that plays into it, right? Like, not that I'm saying queer people need to be more accommodating to corporations looking to fucking monetize them or to whatever the fuck, right? Like I'm not saying that, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like a lot of this like progress, which was just as easily sort of gained, can sort of just easily be like snapped away as if it were fucking nothing. And that's like sort of the problem that I guess we're like sort of facing here as a part of like the dumb fuck idiot backlash that we're finding ourselves under right now with a lot of like conservative fucking influencers and all this fucking bullshit. And because I can guarantee you, unfortunately, a lot of fucking culture gains its permission structures in hyper commodified capitalist sort of systems and states through fucking corporations. Like that's just how it fucking is. Like it is what it is, right? Like that's the whole capitalist realism bit, right? Like as Mark Fisher fucking said, like every facet of fucking life down to your like if it could be done, your fucking thoughts, your feelings, your sort of beliefs. If a capitalist can fucking monetize that shit, they fucking will, and they will try to fucking do it, and they are fucking starting to do it. And that's like kind of the whole like a deal that we're sort of like finding ourselves under. But overall great video there by both Taylor Lorenz with Matt Bernstein. Very informative. Learned quite a bit of stuff in terms of history because, well, that's what I was particularly interested in and stuff like that. But also like the sort of like discussions that have like sort of like led to this sort of like the rise and fall of like rainbow capitalism. But yeah, it was a good discussion. Good to learn about certain things, reflect on certain things, that talk about certain things, yada yada yada. And yeah, don't think there's really much else to say besides that.